Welcome to the Miscellaneous Mind, where nightmares come alive. Dive into the depths of fear with our chilling tales that will keep you on the edge of your seat. From haunted houses and vengeful spirits to unspeakable creatures lurking in the shadows, each story is designed to thrill and terrify. Join us every week as we explore the darkest corners of the human psyche and the supernatural. Don't forget to subscribe, hit the bell icon for notifications, and prepare for a journey into horror like no other. What lurks in the darkness? Let's find out if you dare. Jake tightened his grip on the steering wheel, his knuckles white under the dim glow of the dashboard lights. Beside him, Lila scrolled through her phone, the faint glow illuminating her anxious face. The road stretched ahead, winding through the dense woods like a black ribbon. The thick shadows of trees swallowed the light from the car's headlights. "Are you sure this is the right way?" Lila asked, her voice cutting through the silence. "Yeah, I'm sure," Jake muttered, squinting at the GPS. "It's just a shortcut. We'll shave off an hour if we stick to it." The clock on the dashboard read 1:14 a.m. They had been driving for hours, the excitement of the evening's concert fading into exhaustion. The late-night adventure that had once seemed thrilling was now replaced by an unsettling tension. The narrow, unmarked road felt endless, surrounded by woods that seemed to close in on them. "I don't like this road, Jake," Lila said, her unease growing. "It feels wrong." Jake forced a laugh, though he felt it too, a creeping unease that gnawed at the back of his mind. "Relax, it's just your imagination." But Lila couldn't relax. Something felt wrong. The trees seemed unnaturally tall, their branches twisting like skeletal hands reaching toward the sky. Not a single sound broke the silence. No crickets, no rustling leaves, just the oppressive quiet. "Maybe we should have stayed on the highway," Lila muttered, glancing at the darkness outside. Jake sighed. "We're already halfway through. Turning back now would just waste more time. We'll be fine." The words barely left his mouth when the car jolted violently. Jake cursed and yanked the wheel, fighting to control the car as it swerved. The tires screeched against the gravel, and the car came to a shuddering halt. Lila gasped, gripping the dashboard. "What just happened?" "I think we hit something," Jake said, his voice tight. He stepped out of the car, his boots crunching on the gravel as he inspected the front. Lila watched, her heart pounding in her chest, eyes scanning the dark woods around them. The shadows between the trees seemed deeper, darker. "What is it?" Lila called out, her voice trembling. Jake stood up slowly, his face pale. "There's nothing here." "What do you mean, nothing?" "We hit something." Jake shook his head. "I swear we hit something, but there's nothing. No animal, no debris. Just nothing." Lila's skin prickled with unease. "Maybe it ran off?" "What about the car? Can we keep driving?" "The tire's blown," Jake said, running a hand through his hair. "I'll change it. It'll only take a few minutes." Lila stepped out of the car, her eyes darting around the dark forest. The air felt heavy, like it was pressing down on them. A faint rustling sound echoed from the trees, but when she turned to look, there was nothing. "Hurry up," she urged Jake. Jake knelt by the car, working as quickly as his shaking hands would allow. He could feel it too, the wrongness in the air, like something was watching them. His mind raced, but he forced himself to focus on the task at hand. Then, the sound came again, a snap like a twig breaking underfoot. But it wasn't distant. It was close. Too close. Jake froze, looking up at Lila, who stood motionless, her eyes wide with fear. "Did you hear that?" Lila nodded, her voice barely above a whisper. "Jake, someone's out there." He swallowed hard, tightening the last bolt on the spare tire. "Get in the car." Lila didn't need to be told twice. She hurried to the passenger seat, locking the door behind her. Jake followed, slamming the door shut and turning the key in the ignition. The engine roared to life, and relief washed over them, but only for a moment. As the car's headlights illuminated the road ahead, a figure appeared in the middle of the road, standing unnaturally still. It was tall, too tall to be human, its limbs long and thin, its face hidden in shadow. "Jake," Lila whispered, her voice trembling. "What is that?" Jake's heart pounded in his chest. "I don't know." I don't care. We're getting out of here. He pressed the gas pedal, but the figure didn't move. Instead, it seemed to shift, its limbs bending and contorting in ways that made Jake's stomach turn. As they got closer, the headlights revealed its face, or what should have been its face. There were no eyes, no mouth, just smooth, pale skin stretched over its skull. Jake swerved, narrowly avoiding the figure as they sped down the road. Lila clutched the seat, her breath coming in shallow gasps. What the hell was that? I don't know, Jake said, his voice shaking. I don't know. The car roared down the narrow road, trees flying past in a blur of darkness. But as they rounded a bend, Jake slammed on the brakes. The figure was there again, standing in the middle of the road, unmoving. How is it? Lila began, but the words caught in her throat. The figure started to move toward them, slowly at first, then faster. Its long limbs swung with unnatural grace, its faceless head fixed on the car. Jake threw the car into reverse, the tires screeching as they backed away. But the road was narrow, the trees too close. The car skidded off the road, crashing into the ditch. Jake! Lila screamed. He tried to start the car again, but the engine sputtered and died. Panic surged through him as he fumbled with the keys, but it was no use. The car was dead. Outside, the figure drew closer, its movements quick and jerky, like a marionette being pulled by invisible strings. We have to run, Jake said, his voice barely steady. They scrambled out of the car, stumbling onto the gravel road. Lila glanced back, her breath catching in her throat as the figure neared. Its pale, featureless face was now just feet away. Go! Jake shouted, grabbing her hand. They ran, their footsteps pounding on the road. The trees loomed on either side, their branches reaching out like claws. Lila's lungs burned, but she didn't dare look back. The sound of footsteps echoed behind them. Not human footsteps, but something else. A rhythmic, unnatural tapping, as though the figure's limbs weren't quite hitting the ground properly. Up ahead, a dim light appeared, the faint glow of a gas station. Jake, look! Lila gasped. We're almost there. They pushed themselves harder, the gas station's lights growing brighter. But just as they neared the entrance, Lila stumbled. She cried out as she hit the ground, and Jake skidded to a stop. Lila, he shouted, turning back. But before he could reach her, the figure was there, standing over her, its faceless head tilting down. Lila's scream tore through the night as the figure bent down, its long fingers reaching for her. In a flash, Jake grabbed a large rock from the side of the road and hurled it at the creature. The figure stopped, its head snapping toward Jake. For a moment, it hesitated. Lila, run! Jake screamed. She scrambled to her feet, her legs trembling, and together they sprinted the last few feet to the gas station. The door slammed behind them as they collapsed inside, gasping for breath. The fluorescent lights buzzed overhead, casting a cold, sterile glow. The gas station attendant stared at them, wide-eyed. He looked as pale as they felt, his hands trembling as he adjusted his cap. Why, you all right? The man asked, his voice barely above a whisper. Jake shook his head, still panting, and fumbled for his phone. We need to call 911. There's something out there. I don't know what, but it's coming for us. Lila, shaking uncontrollably, pulled her phone from her pocket as well. She dialed 911, her hands trembling so violently that she almost dropped the phone. The line connected. 911. What's your emergency? Help! Lila blurted, her voice cracking. We're at a gas station on Route 15. There's someone that's been chasing us. We don't know what it is, but it's not human. Please send help. Stay calm, the operator said, her voice firm. Officers are on their way. Stay inside and lock the doors. Jake grabbed the attendant's arm. Is there a back room? Somewhere we can hide. The man nodded quickly, leading them to the back of the store. He locked the front doors as they all hurried into the small, cluttered office in the rear of the station. The air inside was stale, but it felt safer. Minutes passed like hours as they huddled in the office, Lila's head resting against Jake's shoulder, her breath uneven. Every creak, every shift in the wind outside made their hearts race. They could still hear the faint tapping, faint but present, outside the gas station. Finally, The sound of sirens broke through the suffocating silence. Red and blue lights flashed outside the windows, followed by the voices of officers calling out. Thanks for joining us for this spine-chilling tale. If you enjoyed the horror, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more terrifying stories every week. What story scared you the most? Share your thoughts in the comments below, and let us know what you'd like to hear next. Remember, the darkness is always waiting, so keep your lights on and stay tuned for more nightmares.